I'm Anthony Small, the Executive Director of Music Preserves Foundation, and this is our co-founder and our president, Patty Compton. We share the rich multicultural history of American music in schools and in the community. Tonight we have a very special night with Mojave Ghost opening up for the great Marc Ford. And we're gonna have a short conversation with Marc as well. Did you have any comments initially? Ready to get it going? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Marc Ford and Phil Jones.
Do you mind if I sit here so I can get a better view?
We're so happy to have Marc and his band here. And before we get into it, I want to make sure and thank our hosts and partners in this event, the Ocean Institute, as well as our gold record sponsors, the City of Dana Point and Ohana Festival. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to the historian in the family, Patty, and to go ahead and kick things off, and we'll just have a short 10 to 15 minute conversation with the guys. Here you go, Pat.
Hi, yes, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for attending tonight, and we're thrilled to have Marc Ford in here in house. And normally we talk a little bit about history, and that's what we do at Music Preserves Foundation. We bring music history into the schools. I don't know if there's a lot of history is necessary tonight. I mean, this is it's blues rock. I think everyone knows maybe that the blues rose up out of the Mississippi Delta. It was, music born of pain, and it's like medicine, And then in the 60s and 70s, the rock bands were heavily influenced by the blues, and so we'll just kind of get it started here. What are you, most influenced by?
Well, the blues is definitely the roots of all of it. I think every form of American music has got blues in it, and I think that everything traces back to there, and from there it's just neighborhoods and how far away you got from the source.
Yeah, I can call them branches, yeah. But that's exactly right. That's basically what we teach in schools. We teach that the blues are the roots of American music, and then we get to rock and roll. It's kind of like the trumpet, and then we branch out into all the branches, because everything really is based on the roots, and the roots are very deep. So another question I was thinking about was, your songwriting is so emotional, and what inspires you? How has that changed as we've gotten older and moved through time? As your songwriting changed with the passing of time?
I hope so. I hope it gets better. It gets harder to find the time or make the time, or it's not always a fun place, the place you gotta write from. And so to go there and visit there for a sustained period of time, to try to really put to words what you're maybe not even understanding, gets to be harder and harder for me. And I've talked to other songwriters, it's similar too. I mean, I was, maybe not as crazy and stupid and obsessive as I was when I was younger, which you found lots of time when you're in that headspace, to do what you wanted to do, and that was what, it was but it was that or jail, I think, really.
Songwriting or jail? Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a way to work it out, even if you didn't know exactly what you were talking about, something would get worked out.
I have one more question, then I'm going to hand it back to Anthony, but you're from, speaking of the blues, you're from California, like from Long Beach, and I find it interesting the mix of the being from this West Coast area and then blending that with the rootsy blues from the deep South, and it creates this interesting blend. How do you work that out?
Well, like you said, the branches, right? You know, we're talking about a music that is almost 100 years old, and or more, probably. I mean, it's longer than that, but I mean that we've heard recorded music. So, but you have all the branches to listen to now. All of the things that came off those roots, not just the roots themselves. So there's so much more to listen to and be influenced by. And plus we have access to anything in the world now. You know, back in those days it literally was whoever was the guy that you saw in person and got to sit with.
Record you had.
Right. Yeah, so I mean it's, you know, it's just being open to things. And I recognize threads in all the music that I listen to, all the generations, all the genres. You know, there's that thread in there.
Yeah, that's a great description and great explanation. For some of you that might not be familiar with Marc Ford and his history, you know, Marc was a part of the band Black Crowes and played on was it three albums with them, Marc? Yeah.
Three that were released in the 90s, and then a couple more that got released later on.
Right. You know, and it's kind of in working with the Robinson Brothers, I know that you know, you recorded with them, you toured those albums, you went through the storms with them, and then reunited, you know, in various incarnations of the band. Could you just give us some insight to what those years were like as part of the Black Crowes?
Well, it was crazy. It was like stepping onto a rocket ship, because when I stepped in, their first record had just sold 5 million records. And so they were going that way, and so I joined on the second record, and the record debuted at #1 rock record, I think, for a few weeks, and yeah, it was a lot, and it was you know, it was all consuming for several years. You know, when you weren't touring, you were recording for the next tour, and yeah, and when no one tells you no, it's dangerous. Yeah, you're young and no one tells you no, and it's a lot.
A lot of yes men and yes women around, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, you're kind of, you know, expected to be the bad guy when you're a rock and roll band, you know. So, you know, we did.
I was going to say, it seems like you might have, you know, at that time. The man to
Saying I'm old.
probably younger than me. So the man to your left, Phil Jones. You know, again, some of you might be very familiar with his work and a resume a mile long. Some of the one of the neatest you know, bands and groups that you worked with was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And you heard of them? So just as I'd asked about you know, about Black Crowes, could you give us just a little insight of what it was like? You were the drummer on Full Moon Fever for sure, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so could you give us a little insight of what it was like recording and touring with the great Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers?
Well, it was the best band that I could have ever been in, ever. I mean, and that's what I felt. That's what I felt like when I was playing with them on stage. And I was a percussionist. I was not a member of the band, so to speak. But then, yeah. And then when it was time, I was playing with Mike Campbell off and on for, you know, a few months, just jamming basically. And Tom and Jeff wrote the song and they wanted to record it. So they brought it over to Mike's house where we were getting together. and we recorded the song in a day, and it was free falling. And then we just kept recording them. And again, I wasn't in the band, but I was like, you know, making these records. And they were obviously great. And so I would like get the rush from that day, or whatever you call it, you know, the rough mix. And I lived about an hour away, so I'd drive home and I'd listen to this rough mix. And I'd just be going, man.
This is going to be good.
Yeah, but the record company didn't hear a single, you know, so that was the story there.
Right. Well, I promised that we'd keep this short so we could get to Mojave Ghost, but I do have just a couple more questions. You two worked together on a Neil Young tribute called Neil Songs that's a somewhat recent release. And could you tell me a little bit about what that was like recording, and also if we're going to hear any Neil Young songs tonight?
Yes. A couple of songs. We played them towards the end of the set. I said, Marc and I were just talking on the phone. Says, well, we weren't really doing anything right then. And he said, well, why don't we just record some Neil songs? So I have a studio at home, so he came over, and Jim came over, and we just played them as, you know, really pretty quickly, a couple days, you know, and then and we had a lot of fun doing it. I mean, it was just, and then mixed them and put them out.
Right. And those songs can be found on Bandcamp, right?
Yeah.
It's Bandcamp Friday too, by the way, so you can get that album at, I think, half price or something along those lines. But I'm looking forward to, you know, hearing you all tonight, hearing the Neil Young songs, of course, as well. We're so proud to have you guys here and to be able to share your music, to share world-class music and influences with the community of Dana Point. And I want to thank you guys very, very much. Let's hear it for them. It was just a couple minutes and Mojave Ghost will be on the stage rocking you.